So I've been believing for a while that 2033 is the year that Jesus comes back and sets up his kingdom. You feel me? Sets up the 1,000-year reign and all of that. And as I said in previous videos, I believe that it's tied to the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot, which starts on October 8th, 2033. And so I went backwards 2,520 days, 7 years, and that lands me on November 14th, 2026. And as I was calculating the possible time gap, you feel me, between the rapture and the actual signing of the covenant, I came to this date of May 28th, the 12th of Sivan, which coincidentally is the end of Shavuot fulfillment days. You can pause to read more about it. But basically, it was the last day for them to give their offerings. And that just has strong prophetic implications in itself. It was their last day to bring in their offerings for Shavuot. And so, 170 days after May 28th puts you on November 14th, 2026. And so, November 14th, 2026 on the Hebrew calendar is the 4th of Kislev, which is the day that Zechariah foretold the Messianic era. Once again, strong prophetic implications. And so November 14th, 2026 is the 4th of Kislev, which is the day that Zechariah, as it says, the day that Zechariah foretold the Messianic era. And like I've been saying, I believe that Jesus' second coming is tied to the Feast of Sukkot, and that Sukkot is tied to the 1,000-year reign, because it's also prophesied that that's one of the feast days that we will be celebrating during the 1,000-year reign. Like no other feast day is brought up but Sukkot. And we know that 1,000 years is like a Shabbat. You feel me? It's a 1,000-year Shabbat with the Lord. Which is interesting because 1,260 days after November 14th is April 27, 2030. And April 27, 2030 on the Hebrew calendar is the 24th of Nisan, the same day that the first Shabbat was celebrated. And so you got May 28th of this year, possibly and hopefully, maybe the rapture. No man knows day or the hour, not setting a date. But either the rapture or something significant, you feel me, by May 28th, 2026. But you got that day being the end of, or the last day of fulfillment days for Shavuot. Got a 170-day gap that puts you on November 14th, which is the 4th of Kislev, the day that God gave Zechariah the prophecy and he foretold the Messianic era. And also, as you see about November 14th, or the 4th of Kislev, Zechariah also foretold, you feel me, about, how their fasting days, or days of mourning will be turned into days of gladness. So fast days like the 17th of Tammuz or the 9th of Av, days that were days of mourning, you feel me, will be turned into days of gladness. So once again, you got May 28th being the last day, or the last of the fulfillment days for Shavuot. Time gap to November 14th. November 14th being the 4th of Kislev, day that Zechariah foretold, you feel me, the Messianic era, and how the days of sadness or mourning will be turned into gladness and joy. 1,260 days after that lands you on the day of the 24th of Nisan, when they were commanded, you feel me, the first Shabbat. And so the first Shabbat or Sabbath, and Jesus was like, he is the Lord of the Sabbath. And then at the end, it's all tying up nicely with the Messianic era possibly beginning on October 8, 2030, possibly beginning on the first day of Sukkot. I mean, not 2030, but 2033, October 8, 2033. And so you got it all tying up together nicely with the first day of the 1,000-year reign, Messianic era, being on the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles. I don't know what's about to happen, but I know Jesus is coming soon. And I know all this talk about peace in the Middle East isn't for nothing. And we know that the Antichrist confirms or strengthens a covenant that already exists. And what other covenant for him to confirm or strengthen than the Abraham Accords? It's literally in the name, like Abraham Accords, who God made a covenant with. And now you got these Abraham Accords, which is perfect for the Antichrist to come in and strengthen and bring so-called peace in the Middle East. Like the covenant is literally named after the first man to receive a covenant with God. And there's been so much talk about these Middle Eastern countries joining the Abraham Accords. And they will, because it's Bible prophecy. But I truly believe that the Accords is what the Antichrist will strengthen. You feel me? The covenant with many. And so the rapture doesn't have to happen this year. But there's a very strong case for it that it possibly can happen this year. And the dates just actually line up perfectly for it. So let us keep our eyes on how this war will, quote unquote, end. Because how it ends is going to be very telling to what's about to happen next.